Tonight's heavy rain and hail may have exposed weak spots in your roof.
Jennifer Crockett reports from the Mandeville lakefront, where the state's fortified roof program could get a big boost.
U.S. representatives from Louisiana, Mississippi, and California want Congress to spend $100 million a year to help prevent damage to homes from storms and other natural disasters. The money would go to fund Louisiana's fortified roof program and other disaster mitigation programs in other states. Congressman Troy Carter, a Democrat from Louisiana, and Mike Ezell, a Republican from Mississippi, were among the representatives to introduce the bipartisan bill this week. According to Housing Louisiana, the state needs nearly 445,000 fortified roofs at a price tag of over $6 billion to stand up to severe weather here. Carter says this February the state could only fund about 5,000 fortified roof grants, leaving 80% of homeowners who entered the fortified lottery without any grants whatsoever. And he said the $100 million a year bill would save the federal government money in the long run. The idea that FEMA would pay less after a disaster.
Putting a belt and suspenders on. It's putting a trap net under. It's extra insurance and making sure that your property can withstand the storm, less likely that FEMA has to kick in to pay you to help rebuild it after the storm.
There's also an important insurance component to this bill. It would require FEMA to take on insurance companies and demand specific credits or discounts for fortified improvements. Now, Carter could not tell me when states could potentially see this money, and that is because this is very early in the legislation. The bill was just introduced this week and is currently working its way through the House. Reporting in Mandeville, I'm Jennifer Crockett, Fox 8 Local First.